Good to go. Shawn Rhoden.
Yes, sir.
How you feeling right now?
A little bit intimidated. I'm sitting here looking at this shrine of, stuff like this to make you think about all the hard work, that we put in and day out, the sacrifice that's made. And you've been doing this for so long that, I don't think people really realize, like, where you're coming from and, what you have done and accomplished. And I mean, I've known you for a while, but some of these stuff I'm looking at and I'm like, holy crap, like, okay.
We've talked about your upbringing, about your dad, and about the things that he did that established a great foundation in who you are as a person. Let them know where you grew up.
I grew up, you guys ready for this? In what most people would call a village. A very small town in Jamaica, just outside of Kingston, called St. Thomas, in a tiny little village called Trinityville. And there wasn't much to it. It was country. We had, basically grew up in a house that was 2 rooms. And, I slept head to foot with my 3 other brothers. But for us, it was paradise. I mean, there was no greater feeling every day to wake up and, I could walk out my back door and there would be like an apple tree, a mango tree, sugar cane, everything that you could have ever needed. And right across the street was the river. 45 minutes away was the beach. But we grew up having everything that we needed and not what we wanted. When I see people complaining about stuff, I'm like, you have no idea, like, what it's like to sometimes not having running water where you have to take a bath in the river, and that's freezing water. But it teaches you, to appreciate little things in life that most people don't. They just think that everything is, stuff is just given. The expectation is that I am who I am. I'm supposed to have this. I'm entitled. And when you grow up like that, it's a little bit different. You're very thankful. Someone, I tell people I used to wear hand-me-downs from my brother. From my older brother, I get his clothes. Then the clothes that I get to my other brother, that goes to my younger brother. Growing up in Jamaica, that's how life was, but it was paradise for us. And, we enjoy every moment of it. There wasn't a day that goes by that I could ever remember complaining.
And you came from the small little place where what did your dad do?
My dad was into construction. He actually built a high school that I went to in Jamaica. And the funny thing is, I used to see my dad get up every day. It'd be, 120-degree weather outside, and he's out the door, he's at work. And never complained. He never took a day off, never complained of a headache. He just knew that, he had to provide for his family. And he just went about his merry way every single day. And, as a kid, that says a lot as you grew up, because you're like, wow, okay, up until, the day that he passed away, it was always the same thing, like cup of coffee in the morning, out the door. Even when we moved to the U.S., it was the same thing. It would be in D.C. 110 degree or minus 110 degree outside. And he was out the door. So for me, I've always said that bodybuilding is easy because I've watched what he did his entire life and never complained. I'm getting paid to go to the gym to work out.
It's funny you say it, because I was saying the same thing is people go, how do you wake up at 3 o'clock in the morning and train at 4 o'clock every day? And then I come from a family of 10 where it was very similar, dad up, off to work, mom up, off to work, and we had to help work from a young age. And I'm like, wait a minute, that's tough.
Work.
Me working out at 4 a.m., so what?
Yeah, that was, as I said, that was work, so me doing bodybuilding, it was something that I love,
It didn't start with bodybuilding.
Yeah, just bodybuilding. I was a soccer player.
Soccer player, right?
I was a soccer player that thought I was going to end up in Europe somewhere, playing maybe in the English Premier League or, somewhere in Italy. Actually, I thought I was going to be playing, for maybe Barcelona, or
That was the goal, right?
Yeah,
And how old were you at that time?
Up until I want to say 16, 17, I played soccer almost every single day. Every single day I played soccer. And it was, even when bodybuilding found me, it was by accident. I got dragged to the gym by a cousin that told me I need to work out to get stronger. And then that first couple of days, I literally, I couldn't understand why people would go to the gym. I'm like, who goes to the gym to torture yourself and then wake up the next morning and do it again and do it again and do it again? And you would be like, no, you have to keep doing it. Your body will adjust, you'll get better. But I couldn't comprehend. I'm like, in Jamaica, we had cricket, we had soccer, we had track. So to now be in an environment where I have to go to the gym, it was just kind of like every morning I would complain, like, but why? And even then, I still wanted to be a soccer player. Like, even when I started bodybuilding the first couple of years in high school, it was more like, okay, it's going to be a summer thing. And my goal was still to be a soccer player. And, growing up in D.C. at the time, soccer wasn't big in the U.S.
When did you come from?
I came to the U.S. in 1990. And, like, soccer was, if you weren't watching on TV, well, football, let me say football. If you weren't watching on TV, it was, the U.S. was all about basketball and baseball and, and football. So I spent a lot of time watching, on TV. And the high school that I went to, they had a soccer team, and we were really good. Actually, we were great. But still, there was no pathway to say, in other countries, there's a stepping stone, like, you get noticed, you get recognized, and you move on. And I think when MLS started their first year, and they were paying like $15,000, for someone to play soccer, it was like, man, guys in Europe are getting like 50 million. Like, seriously, like, it's a sport just like anything. And then you're watching all the other major sports, and it's like, this guy just signed a, $50 million contract. And you're like, you guys are paying what? And even watching the other soccer team overseas, and you're like, wow, like, but I fell in love with bodybuilding.
What was the switch? What turned it?
Okay, the switch for me was this. I was in a car accident, and I ended up cutting 9 tendon. And I received a phone call saying that my scholarship was lost in another department. And that was like one of the worst things that could have happened, because I had a pigskin scholarship for swimming and soccer. And of course, after this happened, I made a phone call. I said, hey guys, listen, I won't be able to swim the first year, but I'm in rehab. And 2 weeks later, it was like, hey, we're so sorry, your funds was lost in another department. And I'm like, but I can still play soccer. They're like, well, we wanted to do soccer and swimming. So I started rehabbing, and it's like the more I was doing that for myself, because it wasn't about rehabbing to go, to college to play football and do swimming. It was more working on myself. And I fell in love with lifting. And it was a great feeling, because I was like, man, if I didn't go to the gym and put the time in, I know what would happen. And it wasn't even about competing anymore. It was like, I'm working on me. I realized that no matter what we do in life, we are what we do, but our destiny was pre-written before we were ever born. And sometimes we try to fight it because we're like, I want to do this. You keep getting steered in the direction that you were supposed to be. And it takes, some pounding sometimes, like, listen, like, go that way. You're like, but I like this way. You're like, go that way. But that's what I felt it happened to me. It was like, that way, that's your purpose. It was, it's like why? Like, why me? Like, this is what I love, this is what I enjoy. But, over the years, you kind of says, okay, let me just embrace it. First it was like, let me embrace this and see what happened. But in the back of my mind, I kept seeing that soccer field getting further and further away. and the love and the passion for lifting, not bodybuilding. It was like, okay, I might enjoy this. But I'm thankful. At the end of the day, it led me down a great path, and I've had a few bumps here and there, but I've always seemed to end up back being a bodybuilder. In 2002, I remember doing nationals, and I got home, and then they were like, hey, my dad had lung cancer, and it killed me, and I quit bodybuilding. I was like, because I felt as if we spent so much time working on the outside that when your time is up, your time is up. And I quit. I quit from 2002 till end of 2008.
Let me ask you this. When you quit completely. You didn't go to the gym. Eating habits changed.
Everything. I became an alcoholic, and I just gave up. I thought it was pointless.
And your dad had this issue. What year did that start?
2002, the day after Christmas. And they gave him 3 months to live. He made it almost 1 year. And then when he passed away, I drank any and everything for like 7 years. Until I ended up in the hospital with blood in my urine. And it was kind of a wake-up call. Like, okay, this is not the path you're supposed to be on. You went from treating your body like a temple to treating like a garbage disposal. But the entire time I was going through that, and when I decided I was going to quit, I kept hearing my dad's voice. And it was like, the last thing he said to me before he passed away was, when are you getting back on the stage?
Incredible.
That haunted me for 7 years. Yeah, it was like the night before he passed, like the night we were in the hospital, he took the socks off my brother's foot, stood on the ground, looked over at me and said, hey, when are you gonna get back on stage? And I'm like, we all kind of knew it then that, okay, this was his making his rounds.
Yeah.
Then he led me back to bodybuilding because, I quit cold turkey, and I was like, I want to do one more show. Like, and did the show and ended up winning, and everybody was like, oh man, you should be a pro. And I laughed because like the last pro show that I saw was the Arnold or Ronnie Coleman. I was just like, seriously, guys. Like, I saw the Arnold and Ronnie Coleman and Flex Wheeler and Chris Camille was on stage. Like, those guys are pro. Like, here I am. I was, man.
What show was that you came back and you hit?
It was the Delaware State in 2009.
2009.
And they were like,
let me just clear this up. 2009, you come back from something that was deep, bottom of the road. And in 10 years, 9 years, you're Mr. Olympia. That's pretty impressive. It's impressive just because, like you said, you pulled yourself out of that at that point, and you came back.
You know what, to date, man, that's the hardest thing I've ever had to do. Wake up one morning, go to the bathroom, and you pee in blood. The normal person would go, oh shit. Let me go to the hospital. I'm like, man, what did I do last night? I'm like, yeah, I went to work. Got off work, walked to the liquor store, came home, drank some more, played some video game. Woke up the next morning and I'm like, man, like, it still doesn't hit me, like. And I did the same thing. I was like, oh well, Drank that like 2 more days, and then that Monday, I remember walking into work. I was doing kitchen and bathroom design, and I said, hey, Jimmy. I was like, how do you know you have a problem with your prostate? And he goes, what? I'm like, no, seriously. He goes, Shawn, you're too young to worry about your prostate. I'm like, no, but seriously, like. And I was like, well, it's been like 4 or 5 days I've been peeing blood. And he goes, what? He goes, man, you need to go to the emergency room. I'm like, I'll go tomorrow. He goes, no, dude, like, you need to go right now. And I was like, all right, got in the car and I drove and I was there for 3 days. No, actually, I was just like, man, I need to get out of here. Like, I need a drink. Like, dead serious. It was like the entire time being in the hospital, I was just like, man, like, I just need to get it. Because, you know, I drank to stay numb because my dad passed away.
Yes.
And to me, you know, to this day, my dad is and always will be my biggest fan. He used to walk around with VHS tape in his car. You know, so for me, it was like, I know the more I drank, I would just stay numb. And here I am, sitting in the hospital room going, fuck, man, I just need a drink. I need to get out of here. And I'm not even worried about what's going on. It was just like, hey, when can I leave? Is everything okay? And it's like, seriously, dude? Like, you know, you know why we're keeping you here? And I'm like, I don't know, you know. But I remember when I checked out, when I got home, and I'm sitting in my house, and it's funny, like when you're sitting by yourself, you know, and you really start thinking like, man, what am I doing to myself? And the only thing I keep hearing is my dad going, hey, when are you gonna get back on stage? And I'm sitting in the same position I was the night that I got the call when they said he passed away. And I'm like, man, I can't believe I'm doing this to myself. And I remember getting up and just start pouring, because I had a wine rack in my house the size of this wall. You know, I had a Hypnotic, Hennessy, Cavassier in my fridge. And I just remember getting up and just start pouring stuff down the drain. Like man, I need to.
What was going on? What was the mind saying?
The mind was like, I got to quit. I got to quit, because I thought I was going to kill myself. And I mean, I've tried that too. You know, suicide at one point, but that moment it was, you know, a mixture of being depressed, being an alcoholic, being suicidal, and wanting better for myself. Well, not just for me, but for my dad. And you know, just start pouring stuff down the drain, and you know, it took a minute for me to sit there and be like, man, I need to quit. Like, I need help. But like, who do you call? Because the funny thing is, when you're a functional alcoholic, nobody knows that you're an alcoholic. Right. Because they see you. I remember my cousin would say to me, like, dude, I thought we were just having fun for the weekend. I'm just like, dude, I was drinking every day. But he goes, but you still got up and went to work. I'm like, I know. He goes, how? I was like, dude, I don't know. I was like, but I got off work and I wanted to drink. So now it's like, it's time for me to quit. And I'm like, if I didn't quit or try to quit that day, I would have never quit. And it couldn't be one of those where I was going to ease myself in. It was like, I need to quit, like right now. And I was like, you know, I'm going to do cold turkey. And I was like, if I had to do it by myself, and it was like when you see a crackhead in a movie going through withdrawal, that was me for like 72 hours of 1 minute freezing, the next minute feel like you're burning up, throwing up, diarrhea, you name it, just pretty much laying in my own felt. And but I knew like each day was like, okay, I need to quit, I need to quit, I need to quit, I need to quit. And you know, when I came out on the other side, it was, I don't want to say refreshing, it was scary, because I'm like, now what? Like,
I quit, but what's next?
Like, are you gonna be tempted every time you walk by the liquor store? Like, are you gonna ever go out? Like what do you do? But I was like, you know what? Is either that or death. And I just quit. And the funny thing is, the only reason why I got back on stage was same cousin that dragged me to the gym was bugging me to go to a show with him for months. And I was like, just not my thing. I haven't been in the gym in so long. Little Debbie's and Twinkies in the holes with my best friend, and you know, Pizza Hut was on speed dial, and he was like, no, just come, I just need you to help me. And I'm like, dude, I don't compete anymore. I don't know what bodybuilding is. And I went to a show with him, and showed up at my house to get me. And I remember sitting in the last row, and I'm looking at guys that I compete against 7 years prior to that. And I'm like,
What show was this?
this was like, it wasn't even an NPC show. It was like a little NGA show. And I'm like, man, these guys are tiny. And they were like, what? And I'm like, no, seriously, like, this is bodybuilding. Like, why are these guys competing the same weight class? And every single person that was sitting in that row started laughing. They're like, dude, seriously, you're fat, you're out of shape, and you're talking about these guys. I'm like, yeah, but it's been 70 years, like, you know, at least one weight class more. And they're like, you know, you haven't set foot in the gym, you think you can do better than this? And my cousin, you know, started hyping it up, and, you know, he was like, hey, you know, I bet you $1. And at the time I was thinking, I had nothing but time, dude. I'm not drinking anymore. I need an outlet. Like, yeah, if I was going to the gym once a week and just picking up a 5-pound dumbbell, for me, that was an accomplishment. And at the same time, I was like, you know, this might be, again, before you were born, your destiny was written. And I felt as if it was one of those things that was, you know, kind of steered me back in a direction. Funny thing is, the next morning, I had a friend of mine, Mike Moore, called me and he goes, bro, listen, man, I just got a job. I'm the general manager at the Gold's Gym. I give your friends and family a discount. I'm like, you gotta be kidding me. Like, I'm like, it just seemed as if everything was just lining up where I'm like, what is the chance? I haven't spoke to Mike in years. And all of a sudden, he's calling me, offering me a free membership. And I was like, you know what? I was like, you know, I'm gonna come down, dude. And I went down, and Mike, I'm gonna tell you, I remember the first time back in the gym, trying to bench like 25-pound plates on each side. And the entire time you could hear the bar rattle, like, and I'm like, what's wrong with the bar? I didn't realize I was shaking. You know, it was like using muscles that you never thought you've ever used before. And man, I was like, creeping in your head again, man, I need a drink. Like who needs this shit? You know, but I had a friend of mine that I used to train with, Kina Iliassi. And she goes, you know what, I train with you. And man, this Persian girl just kicked my butt. Like every day I wanted to quit. It was like, you know, just no way I'm gonna let you quit. And man, she beat me in the ground like every day till I was doing like acupuncture like three times a week, like just to make it to the gym. So when I finally decided I was gonna do a show, because there was no timetable when I could do the show. So when I finally looked in the mirror, I was doing my own diet, I was doing everything. And I looked in the mirror and I was like, you know what? There's a show this weekend. And it's 3 hours away from DC. I'm like, I'm not gonna tell anyone. Just gonna get it right here.
2010?
Yeah.
Is this 2010?
No, 2009.
Oh, 2009, okay.
I'm like, I'm not gonna tell anyone just in case.
Just go and show up.
Just in case I don't do so good and then get my ass handed to me. I was like, so I remember I got in the car that night before the show and I drove all by myself. And I went to the show and I was so nervous. I felt like it was my first show all over again. And I went out and I won, and I remember pumping it backstage, and he goes, are you the guest poster? Why are you here so early? And I'm like, seriously, the guy's like, but, you know, it was a good feeling. And when everyone was like, hey, you should, you know, do it in North America.
When you came back in 2010, what'd you step on stage at?
So 210 was my pro debut.
No, 2009. When you came back for this show.
12 pounds.
212.
Yes. And I did North America where I wear my pro card at 212. And I mean, even that was an eye opener for me. You know, again, it was like I did the Delaware, I won. They were like, hey, you should do the North America. And I kind of laughed about it because I just didn't see myself as that caliber of bodybuilder yet. I was like, man, I haven't trained in a while. So, again, I didn't tell anyone. 4 weeks later, I drove to Cleveland 9 hours by myself. And I remember sitting backstage watching every single person weighed in. Like, literally, like, and start questioning myself, like, why am I here? I was like, man, these guys are huge, like, you know. And it wasn't just someone say, dude, aren't you competing? I'm like, oh shit, I'm competing tomorrow. And hadn't shaved, I haven't found someone to do tan. Like, I remember being in the Muscle Development Forum, because, you know, back then there was no social media.
Right.
So I'm in the Get Big forum going, does anybody know someone that could tan?
Oh my God.
In Cleveland. And luckily this one lady was like, listen, I have a bunch of people, but if you show up, I could squeeze you in. And I remember like running back to the hotel, driving to this other hotel 20 minutes away, and I sat there all night. She tanned me a couple of times, and
You shaved up and got ready.
yeah, and I got ready, and you know, I ended up winning my pro card, and it was a great feeling. But even then, it was, you got your pro card, then what? At the end of the day, you know, I've learned. Listen, I grew up getting a lot of quotes from my family, you know, from my mom, my dad, and you know, it's, you'll know when the right people come along, you know, and you know, real will always be real no matter what. And you know, I was having a conversation last night, and I remember saying, you know, my parents always say, don't throw away your stick before you finish crossing the water. Because most people do that. They tag along, and when they think that you've elevated them to another level, then it's like they forget. And then it's like, hey, I need to go back. And it's like, well, you get to where you thought you needed to be, and now you're like, hey, can you help me? And I'm like, yeah, I'll help you. And then you basically throw me under the bus because you thought, hey, listen, I'm where I'm at, and I don't need you anymore. And it's like, you know, so I've learned over the years that you're going to have the people that you're going to trust 100%. And you just have to learn to keep your circle as tight as possible. You know, and if you're able to do that, because the funny thing about bodybuilding is, and even social media is, social media give you the ability to pretend to be someone that you're not. Fame does the same thing also. Bodybuilding even more so, because you have people that are Insta famous, people who won one show and feel as if they've made it. And then they become a different persona. At the end of the day, the same person that you go into the sport with, you got to be able to say, I'm leaving as that person. And I think it changes people when people start recognizing who they are. Then they feel as if, hey, I'm somebody. So they try to play this person. They try to play a role. And then when the lights are turned off and fat lady of song, then it's just like, hey guys, you know, I was just joking. For me, I'm like, I'm gonna leave the same person I came in with, whether you like me or not. I'm not gonna change who I am because of who I've become.
It's an amazing thing. If you can stay true to who you are on social media, you're creating something, you're creating a connection instead of trying to sell people on something that you cannot maintain.
You know, when all is said and done, then it's just kind of like, hey guys, you know, it's me, I was just playing. You're like, seriously? Like, you know, you became a, can you say ass on here?
Yeah.
You became an ass at one point. And, you know, you've sold your soul, and then all of a sudden we're supposed to do what? You know, the people that you belittled and trash, you know, now we're supposed to be like, hey guys, it's okay. You know, just bring him back, let's bring it in, give it a hug. And me, I'm like, I can't. Like, if you weren't here from the get-go and understand, like, the journey and the destination, if you didn't understand who I was and you decided to be somebody that who you thought you want to be, continue to be that person. I am no longer interested. Like, keep doing what you're doing. I'll continue to be me.
Some people have tried to break you. They've tried to break you down. They've tried to say things and go, this is not how you should show up. This is not how you should be. And we know guys in the industry, and we know that you have to accept them for who they are and what they're trying to do, and they're trying to create hype. Yeah. Except that hype hurts. So some people were saying things you guest posed a little while ago to their point. They didn't feel that you came like what you should have for guest posing. Now, see, here's one thing. I get to guest post so much. I stopped competing 19 years ago. So I can stay in a certain amount of shape so I can guest pose and show up like I do, because I'm not trying to be Mr. Olympia. There's something I don't think the common Joe understand. You have to go in a surplus of calories. That means you need to put on weight. And you got that one show, so you got to prep for a long period of time. Now, for some reason, society forgets that whole period and goes off of just what you look like at Mr. Olympia and then says, this is how you need to be all year long, which to the intelligent person, they understand that that's not feasible. You can't do that. You're the most perfect human in bodybuilding world that day, and then you have to build up to that. And if you try to stay in that condition, you're just destroying your body completely. So we understand this. And also the people that talk negative understand this, even though they play like they don't. What happens when they do this? Does that hurt you? Does that upset you that they're trying to call you out and they say things like this?
I mean, there are a few people that have made a few comments, and the problem is the few that have made comments, I've lost respect for a long time ago. So, with that being said, I don't hold it against them. I'm like, you could say what you want to say right now because you're irrelevant. At one point or another, you were in my shoes and you were competing, and you did what you had to do to stay healthy. And that means you took time off, you showed up guest posing, looking like you were retired. At one point or another, you showed up fat. So for you to take it on your shoulder now and decide to bash me, I said kudos. Seriously, I said thank you. The simple fact that...
Because they showed their colors?
They showed their colors, one. But someone said this to me the other day. He goes, the people that are pointing fingers at you... Actually, I could say who said this. Kevin Levrone said to me, Shawn, people are bashing you, but they've never been Mr. Olympia. They don't know what it took for you to be Mr. Olympia. They had no idea the sacrifice. They have no idea, the time that you put in. Like, we all did it, but we've never accomplished that. So if you want to take time off like you've always done to reset your body and be right, he's like, who am I to judge you? He goes, so you're just trying to preserve yourself. You're trying to make sure that you stay healthy. You're not going to be a bodybuilder your entire life. So when I see these guys, they're like, you and you and you and you and you and you should have done this and you should have done that because you're Mr. Olympia. I'm like, shit, I'm still human. So you would rather me kill myself and look great in May, and then if I showed up in September and I look like crap, you're going to tell me, well, you should have taken some time off and let your body rest. It's like, this sport, I love this sport, but at the end of the day, I think the mistake we all make is we wait until someone that we knew, someone that we were friends with, that's no longer alive or no longer competing. And then we go, man, you know what? He should have took time off to, take care of himself. He was such a great guy. But we wait until something bad happened for us to say that instead of, listen, I apologize if I offend anyone because I was fat and out of shape, but the Olympia is in September. The Olympia is in September. It's the pinnacle of our sport. And Chris Aceto always say to me, Shawn, if You need to land a plane in September. You don't put your landing gear down in May. It makes no sense. The guys that looks great in May don't look great in
I think
September.
the new age guys don't do is they're so hungry for it that they do everything they possibly can to be the greatest bodybuilder. And so that means that they stay on the gear all year long. They try to continue to diet all year long. And then you get these guys that are 28, 29 dying of heart attacks. Guys in their 30s is young. I've been here since 1990 and I've seen so many pass. And it's just that continuous grind where if you go back to the 70s, 60s, 70s, early 80s, you'll see there's photos of Arnold during his competing years where he looked like a male model. Mm-hmm. And then 4 months later, he's walking on stage at 237 pounds, ripped to the bone. How does that work? Because he was taking care of his body and he was being smart about it. And it's an interesting thing that the kids today, I hope they grow up understanding you've got to take care of your body first and foremost.
You know what it is, and I told you this, I think when I found out I was having a child, yeah, it was one of those moments where it was like, well, I'm going to be a dad. I'm going to be a dad. I'm going to be a dad. The hard part was prepping while knowing that you're going to have a kid. My daughter was born 6 weeks before 2015 Olympia, and I mean it was a very hard prep because you embark on a journey that you've never been before, and that's fatherhood. And then you have basically your job over here, and you know that this is providing or will provide for this. Like what do you do? I basically go back to what my dad was doing, which he worked. You know, it was like, now's the time that you can't take your foot off the gas just because, like, you know, the later years you'll be able to enjoy that, you know, when you'll be able to say, hey, listen, you know what, I'm done competing and, you know, let me enjoy, you know, being a dad. But I prepped, and I mean, I took third at the Olympia that year. You know, the hardest part is, okay, let me back up. The day my daughter was born, and I remember being in the hospital, the first time she cried, I saw my entire life passes in front of my face, and it had nothing to do with bodybuilding. Nothing to do with bodybuilding. It was everything else but bodybuilding, because I'm always going to be a dad. Bodybuilding is just a job. With that being said, I realized that now my life had a purpose and a meaning, and I'm going to have to work twice as hard as I've ever worked before. You know, being a parent, being a dad, doesn't stop you from being bodybuilding. It's now you have a purpose as far as, listen, when you're by yourself, when you're providing for yourself, if you wake up one morning, you're tired, you go, I'm tired. When you're providing for someone that has no understanding of the outside world, they just knew that that's my dad, then it's like they're dependent on you, you know, for their life, for a roof over their head, food on the table. I just realized I had to work twice as hard. You know, I had to make, you know, big sacrifice, small sacrifice. But I knew that I had to work even harder from that moment. See, it's the mindset of most people. They forget that, yeah, you're having a child, but if you quit now, that's the only thing that you're going to remember and your child is going to remember. You know, down the road, like my dad quit. Why did he quit? Because he was having me. But why? You could still be a dad and still do the same thing as you. This is how you provide for your family. And I've heard that so much. It was, for the longest time, I heard, because most people tend not to understand what we do, so they look at it as your bodybuilding thing, not your job. I'm like, this is my job. Like, it's not a bodybuilding thing. Like, The traveling, the dieting, the training, it's my job. It's not my bodybuilding thing. This is not my, it might look like a hobby to most people, but it is my job 24/7 to do what I do, which will enable to provide for my child today, tomorrow, and down the road. Even when I didn't have a child and I was going to the gym, I used to tell people that was my time. That's me dedicating X amount of hours each day to better myself. Instead of me, someone that was an alcoholic that quit and found back to gym, it was an outlet for me to go to the gym and do something. So someone on the outside is like, hey, I'm having a child, so I need to quit working out. And then what? You've been doing it for so long to keep yourself healthy. Now's the time that you need to be healthy for your child. It's rough, man. It's life, And there's a lesson to learn. There's a lesson to learn from all this. And we all go through, trial and tribulation at one point or another. It's finding an outlet to pick yourself up, The best thing that could have happened to me, to be honest, was me being an alcoholic, because everything that I went through, once I start telling my story, I realized there was someone else that had been down the same path, or someone that was going down the same path that I went. And to have someone openly comes out and speak about it, now they're like, man, I'm where you were. How did you do it? I was like, first and foremost, it was the mindset of, do I want to continue to be where I'm at? Like, is this where you see yourself? Like, are you willing to give up, like, right now? You're willing to throw the towel in and say, I'm done? Or does your life have a reason and a purpose? Now's the time that you pick yourself up and try to inspire and motivate someone else that's going through the same thing that you're going through. And, look to your left, look to your right. I guarantee you, someone that don't know what you're going through and is willing to help if they know what you're going through. My biggest mistake was I never told anyone that was going on, because I felt as if, like, who was going to listen to me? And two, I hear this so much. They were like, well, your dad wouldn't want you to be like this. But, at the time, it was a weight that I felt as if I needed to take on my own, and I remember like talking to my brothers, and I didn't realize, even though they weren't in the position that I was or the situation that I was, but after I was able to talk to them, they felt the same way. And I'm just like, wow, I thought it was just me. I remember talking to my mom, and she broke down crying. She was like, I feel like that every day. But I thought that I was the only one that had this heavy weight on my shoulder, and no one would understand, if I try to talk to them, but it's trying to open up and let people in and, find an outlet where you're able to seek help. For me, my outlet was getting back in the gym. We are what we do.